Have you ever wished that you could remember things better? You might read or see something really interesting and you get an idea, but by the time you sit down to write down your idea, you forgot what it was? It's frustrating when ideas slip away from us before we can do anything with them, or when you can't recall a key piece of information that you'd like to build on. I really like reading books and articles. I watch loads of videos, listen to podcasts, but for years I struggled to remember things. I kept notes in all different places and it was an absolute mess. And to organize my notes in a way that I could really, do something with them. When I wanted to sit down and work on something, I didn't know where to start and it was demotivating until I started using a second brain. In today's chapter of the podcast, I'll tell you about my personal experience with building a second brain, what I've learned from this book, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte, why I love this system, but also why it might not work for everyone. But first, what is a second brain and why should you care? Hi, and welcome to Productive Introvert Community. I'm Mariela Franker. I'm a former research scientist with a PhD in molecular biology, and I now coach introverts who work from home how to create a healthy lifestyle so that they have the energy to work on their goals without a daily routine that feels forced or only lasts 2 weeks. This podcast has a new mission: to help introverts develop the mindset and get the practical tools they need to naturally excel in their work and life. Last week, I took some time to shift things around and set up some processes on the back end so that I can continue to bring you weekly content and contribute to this new mission. I started experimenting with how to build a second brain about a year ago, and I want to share with you what I've learned so far. But first, what is a second brain and why should you care? Essentially, a second brain is a database of all the things that you find important and interesting. It's there to help you to use your human brain for what it's best at, coming up with creative ideas. It's a concept that I learned from Tiago Forte that he describes in his book, Building a Second Brain, a proven method to organize your digital life and unlock your creative potential. Our brains are really not that good at remembering facts and repeating the same processes over and over again. Sadly, the things that are emphasized in schools, although that is starting to change. Our brains are actually much better at making connections between seemingly unrelated things and solving problems, i.e. creative thinking and creative problem solving. That's where building a second brain comes in. We have access to so much information today, way more than we've ever had in the past. And you can basically learn anything you want to for free online. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what are you going to focus your attention on and practice long enough so that you can get good at it. The main thing that building a second brain has given me is mental space. For me, it's knowing that everything is in one place, it's searchable, and I don't waste time and energy anymore looking for things. Now that I'm a couple of months in, I'm noticing that it's also making it easier for me to spend the majority of my time on creative problem solving. So instead of trying to recall what that thing was that I wanted to try or talk about or think about, I can just look it up. And the energy that I used to spend on looking for things that I'd misplaced is now spent actually figuring out how to improve my life and my clients' lives by finding the right tools and tweaking them for their situation. And that is a lot more energizing and fulfilling in the end because I'm actually making progress. By storing facts and other things that are of interest in a separate database other than your human brain, you can free up a lot of mental space that you can use for creativity and problem solving. First, let me tell you how Tiago Forte's system to build a second brain works, and I'll also tell you why I wouldn't necessarily recommend this system for everyone. Now, there are different layers to Forte's system to build a second brain. I'm only going to touch on the core principles today, but if you want all the details, I recommend that you dive into Forte's book. By the way, I'm not affiliated with any of the resources that I share on the podcast, not the books or the links that I put in the description. I just share them out of personal interest and to give you context so that you can make your own decision about what is useful to you. The core system of this method is spelled out by the acronym CODE, C-O-D-E. the 4 steps to remember what matters. In code, the C stands for capture, the O for organize, the D for distill, and the E for express. Let's go over these 4 steps one by one. The essence of capture is to keep only what resonates and leave the rest aside. We're bombarded with information all the time, and it's literally piling up around us, overflowing inboxes, hundreds of unread messages, social content, etc., etc. We simply can't keep up with the stream of information that's coming to us on a daily basis. But the fact is, you shouldn't want to keep up. If we're honest, let's say 90% of the information that's coming to you on a daily basis isn't really useful or helpful. And when you do find something that's helpful or interesting, it often gets lost in the noise. Keep only what resonates is a beautiful phrase to help remind you that your attention is your most valuable asset. It isn't time, it isn't energy. It's what you do with that time or energy. In the capture step of code, the way that you collect information is the focus. Forte talks about capture tools. It's a type of software or an app that's designed to save highlights and that you can link to a note-taking app. You can even highlight parts from audio and video. I haven't tested that thoroughly, but that is a feature that I saw. And that is very helpful to me because I learn a lot by listening. I'm not done researching capture tools yet, so if you want to hear more about that in a follow-up episode, comment below capture tools and I'll dive into that with you. The second step in code is the O, organize. And the essence here is to save for actionability. A lot of the times when we take notes, it stays on the page, right? All through university and then throughout my PhD, I made tons of notes, but when I sat down to, for example, design my own experiments or write manuscripts, those notes were not in an organized way to help me in those processes. I've tried loads of file organizing systems over the years, organizing by project name, by year, by urgency. In my experience, those options worked well for a certain type of project, but they would fail for others. For example, what worked well for a clearly defined work project, like something with a clear start and end date, didn't work well for an ongoing project, such as the project that I was working for my PhD, or even things that I was doing at home. So the filing system that is in the book is called Para. Using the Para system to organize files has made the biggest difference for me so far, because it gives enough structure to stay on top of things that I'm actively working on, but it also has flexibility to save things in an organized way, even when I don't know where they're going yet, but that I can find them back later when I need them. Here's how it works. There are 4 folders, P-A-R-A. P is for projects, and those are things that have an end date. For example, this podcast episode. A is for areas, and you can put things in there that you're actively working on, but that are open-ended or reoccurring. For example, this podcast overall. Most of my home projects and things for my son's school are in my areas folder too. R is for resources, and these are things that you may want to use in the future. This is the main place where I put all the random things that I see online and that catch my attention, especially when I don't have a clear idea yet what I want to do with it. And the last folder is A for archive. This is where you put everything that's been closed or that you no longer need. A great tip from Forte is that if you're just starting with this system, to put all your old files in archive. This is great because you don't have to waste any energy trying to decide where to put the old files, or even if they're still relevant, but it's still there in case you need it. So you can always go back and dig it up from archive. But more often than not, you will never look at that file again. And you can just give yourself permission to delete them after a while. This is a big relief for someone like me who is a little bit of a digital hoarder. Okay, so going back to the code system. That was about the first 2 steps, capture and organize. The third step is distill. The idea here is to get down to the core essence of the notes that you take. For example, within an article that you read, what was the paragraph that jumped out to you? What made you want to save it? Can you distill that even further? Can you summarize that paragraph into one sentence or one idea? The reason Forte does this is to give your future self the best chances of using the note. That's a great way to look at it, because let's just be honest with ourselves. I don't know about your future self, but my future self is lazy. If a note is too long, if I can't remember why I thought it was interesting in the first place, I will not look at it. I probably won't use it. It's too much of a hassle to go back and reread the entire article again. So essentially, if the core idea, the reason why I saved it, isn't there for me on a silver platter, it is actually useless to save the note in the first place. So making it as easy as possible for your future self to understand why this is interesting to you. Then comes the last step in code E-Express. Show your work. This here is when all your work becomes most meaningful. There's a well-known quote from Francis Bacon, "Knowledge is power." This is a very powerful quote, and I used to believe in this very strongly. I still believe in it. Although, now that information is so abundant to us, we have access to much more resources and much more information online than we ever have. It's really less about the knowledge and more about what you do with it. The way that you show your work can mean different things to different people. You don't immediately have to become an influencer or a content creator or start a business to express yourself. That's possible, but there are so many ways to create something valuable. The question to ask yourself is, what are you going to do with the knowledge that you have, the knowledge that you're collecting every single day? What can you do with it to improve your life or the life of someone else? Those were the 4 steps of code, the 4 steps to remember what matters. I am a year into building my second brain when I'm recording this, and I've just scratched the surface. I have only implemented one of the 4 steps, and I focus mainly on the organized step because that was a really natural place for me to start. By the way, the organized step may not be your most natural place to start. And there's a way to figure that out. If you're interested to know more, comment first step, and I can expand on that. So far, I like this system a lot, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone because I don't think it will work for everyone. It may sound counterintuitive, but this system probably works best for people who are naturally interested in organizing things or who actively want to build that skill. Although code makes it easy to organize things while still having the flexibility to explore wide interests, it does require upkeep. If you're going to use Para to organize your digital files, you'll need to be disciplined in sending information to your second brain consistently, and you'll need to make a habit of checking and cleaning up your files regularly. If that's something that naturally draws your attention, then it'll be easy to do. But if it's something that feels like a chore to you, your folders will become a mess probably really quickly, and you will not get the benefit out of your second brain that you could. I am all about natural discipline, leaning into the things that feel really easy for you to do so that you don't have to rely on willpower the whole time, and you can save your time and energy for the really important things. The last thing that you want is for the tool to become the master. A tool is supposed to support you and your process. If the tool feels too complicated, too hard, or like a chore, it's probably not the right tool for you right now. And that's okay. What are your questions about how to build a second brain? Leave your question about a second brain in the comments below, and I'll research some answers for you. If you took only one thing from today's chapter, it would be this. Document what sparks your interest and leave the rest. If you did nothing with the code system or building a second brain at all, but you simply started documenting the things that excite you and interest you, then that's going to propel you in ways you didn't know it could. So if you're not already doing that, start documenting things that interest you, that catch your eye, things that make you go, that's weird. The way you do this doesn't really matter. Get yourself a notebook or a bullet journal. Write it on scrap pieces of paper, record voice messages and send them to yourself. Initially, it really doesn't matter how you do it. Simply noticing the things that jump out to you will help you to understand more about yourself, your own creative thinking process, and the unique way that you contribute to the world around you. Ultimately, understanding that is how you learn to naturally excel and feel fulfilled in your everyday life. So give yourself permission to hone into that and leave the rest. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast. If you're an introverted entrepreneur and you're ready to thrive in your own way, then connect with me on thefrankermessage.com/contact.